Testing, testing. Alrighty. Alright. Just had some lunch, ran some Curse of Strahd this morning. It was very tough. Not so much tough for me to run, but tough to watch, tough to participate in. They are playing with some extremely hard house rules, and yeah, just brutal stuff. It's always so brutal. Yeah. Anyways, let's continue our studying of Pathfinder 2, with the goal being learning the system enough to run a game when one of my current games reaches conclusion. Because based on everything that's been going on with WotC and OGL and all that, my heart and my spirit are a little broken. So I'm having trouble really feeling like contributing to that. So we're gonna try something new this year, 2023, year of Pathfinder 2. Note that if time permits, I will also be trying out a little bit of Edge of the Empire. I managed to get my hands on some Edge of the Empire stuff, but I'm going to prioritize Pathfinder first, Edge of the Empire second, and we will slowly but surely be phasing out D&D as the campaigns end. But we're not going to switch any of the current campaigns over. All right, let's jump in with, we finished Acrobatics last time we hung out, so we're going to do Arcana. All right, Arcana is I believe a knowledge skill is what they call it, and it has quite a few things that it could do when feats are involved. It doesn't look like it's got too much it could do by itself, but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a good thing. All right, so we're going to do, I think I'm supposed to be taking notes this whole time, but we'll go ahead and add a skills section to our notes, pad this document on a little bit, and let's see what interesting things we discover about the Arcana skill. Its default value is int. Arcana measures how much you know about arcane magic and creatures. Even if you're untrained, you can recall knowledge. Recall knowledge about arcane theories, magic traditions, creatures of arcane significance, like dragons and beasts. It is important to note that a beast is, I believe, different than an animal. And therefore, I guess, is their version of monster. And the elemental, astral, and shadow planes. Arcana trained actions includes deciphering writing about arcane theory, which we've already covered. Decipher writing, it is a general skill. Identify magic, I believe it's another general skill, particularly arcane magic. Learning a spell, another general skill, kind of branching out into Arcana. And tapping a ley line, which is another general skill specific to arcane ley lines. There are many items that will help you improve this feat. Not as many as we saw for acrobatics, but they're there. And there are a bunch of feats for Arcana, and we're going to read those in a second. Alright, so the only trained action for Arcana is borrow an arcane spell, and I tell you what, that sounds pretty cool. So this is a concentrate and exploration action. And how it works is if you're an arcane spellcaster who prepares spells from a spell book, you can attempt to prepare a spell from someone else's spell book. The GM sets the DC for the check based on the spell's level and rarity. I did learn about spell rarity last time we were doing this. By default, when you level up, you only have access to common spells. So they actually not all spells are created equal. There are going to be rare and special spells that are uncommon and rare, and maybe more. And those are harder to find. Even non-wizards need to work hard to get access to those uncommon and rare spells. So killing wizards is apparently the thing to do, so that you can take their spell books. All right. If you succeed, you prepare the borrowed spell as part of your normal spell preparation. I thought this would be a little bit cooler, like they actually borrow like spell slots from each other, but that would probably be too strong. Failure, you fail to prepare the spell, but the spell slot remains available for you to prepare a different spell. Well, that's nice. You can't try to prepare this spell until the next time you prepare spells. I always like how they throw a cooldown on a lot of these things so that you don't just sit there spamming it until you get it right. All right, what are the feats related to Arcana? Alrighty. It looks like there are quite a few. The first one is Arcane Sense. This is a level 1 feat. Your study of magic allows you to instinctively sense its presence. You can cast first level Detect Magic at will as an arcane innate spell. If you're a master in Arcana, the spell is heightened to 3rd level, and if you're legendary, it is heightened to 4th level. I thought that this was pretty cool. I got this as part of my backgrounds of being able to detect magic at will. As a summoner, I don't have a lot of spell slots, so it was pretty nice being able to just know that I at least had some leveled spell that I could cast with a bit more frequency, so that was good. This leads to Eyes of the Arc Lords, and generally that's all you need, is you can just cast Detect Magic at will. What does Eye of the Arc Lords do? This is a feat 2, so I'm assuming you can't do it until level 2. And it has the prerequisite. You have to have training in Arcana, you have to have Arcane Sense, and you have to be members of a special order called Arc Lords of Nex. You open an incandescent third eye on your forehead. The eye can remain open for 1 minute, and you can close it before then with a single action with the Concentrate trait. It can remain open for 2 minutes if you're a master in Arcana, or 5 minutes if you're legendary. While the eye is open, you gain the following benefits. You gain the effects of the Detect Magic Arcane Initiate spell from your Arcane Sense at the start of each of your turns without needing to cast the spell. You also gain Dark Vision, and you get a +2 status bonus to perception checks to seek undetected and hidden creatures, and your perception DC against hide and sneak. After your third eye closes, you are dazzled for an amount of time equal to how long you had it open. I think that's pretty cool. I don't know if I would ever take it as a feat, but I think thematically it's pretty dope. Alright, let's see. Quick identification. Alright, you need to have prerequisite. You have to be trained in Arcana, Nature, Occultism, or Religion. You can identify magic swiftly. It takes only a minute when using Identify Magic to determine the properties of an item, ongoing effect, or location, rather than 10 minutes. If you're a master, it only takes 3 actions. And if you're legendary, it only takes 1 action. And this is not going to give you access to anything else. I don't think I would ever take Quick Identification. I can't imagine that time would ever be so limited that I would want it, 1 minute instead of 10 minutes for identifying something. But I'm sure it has some edge case uses that are important. I don't really understand the game, so how do I know? Recognize Spell. Alright, this feat is built in to the Arcana skill in 5th edition D&D, according to the Xanathar's guide, but here it is an actual feat. It is secretly rolled, it is a skill check, it is general. You must be trained in Arcana, Nature, Occultism, or Religion. A creature within line of sight casts a spell that you don't have prepared in your spell repertoire, or a trap or similar object casts such a spell. You must be aware of the casting. If you are trained, what if you can recognize what a magic item does and use it immediately? I guess that's cool. Yeah, I guess I could see that being useful. Finding a magic item in the middle of a fight or something like that. Yeah, you're right. That's probably useful, Remy. Let's see. If you're trained in the appropriate skill, spell tradition, and it's a common spell of 2nd or lower, you automatically identify it. That's cool. You still roll to attempt to get a critical success, but it can't get worse than success. The highest level of spell you automatically identify increases to 4 when you're an expert, and 6 when you're a master, and 10 if you're legendary. That's right, 10th level spells. 10th level spells. The GM rolls a secret Arcana, Nature, Occultism, or Religion check, whichever corresponds to the tradition of the spell being cast. So you want your character to be a mega nerd to get the most out of this ability. If you're not trained in the skill, you don't get a better result than failure. Harsh. If you critically succeed, you recognize the spell and gain a +1 circumstance bonus to your saving throw or your AC against it. Otherwise, you successfully recognize it, or you fail to recognize it, or you misidentify the spell. This does lead to quick recognition. So let's look at quick recognition. Let's see. You need to have recognize spell and be smart. You recognize spells swiftly. Once per round, you can recognize a spell using a skill in which you are a master as a free action. Oh, that's pretty cool. And that is a level 7 feat. Alrighty. Reveal true name. True names have a lot of power in Dungeons & Dragons and fantasy lore. It's no different in Pathfinder 2. You need to be trained in intimidation and then one of the magic skills, like Arcana. You attempt to get a creature to do as you wish by threatening them with your knowledge of their true name. You must know and speak the creature's true name and say what you want the creature to do, attempting an intimidation check against their will DC. Critical success. The target does as you say without a sense of self-preservation and will not harm itself. Let's see. The target does as you say out of a sense of self-preservation and will not harm itself in any way. It becomes unfriendly, if it wasn't already unfriendly or hostile, but continues to comply for 1 day. The target is too scared of you to retaliate or flee. Certain you will find them wherever they might go. A regular success is like a critical success, but once the target becomes unfriendly, they avoid you and might act against you in an indirect manner. See also Evil Genie rules, such as alerting your enemies to your location. The target refuses on a failure to comply and typically flees your presence to avoid any further use of their true name. If they were not already unfriendly or hostile, they become unfriendly. They avoid you in the future and are likely to take indirect action against you. And critical failure, the creature refuses to comply and becomes hostile if it wasn't already. They perceive you as weak, and they might attack you. Otherwise, they will likely flee to avoid you further using their true name against them. There's a lot going on with this this action and this whole thing here. Wow, that's a lot happening there. I like that like true names play such a strong role. I like the implications there for a summoner that is, this is some old school demon worshipping Dungeons and Dragons in the basement wearing your cultist robes. This is the good stuff. This is the satanic panic stuff of the olden times. So it's nice to see that have some support here in this darkest timeline. Let's see. Then we got trick magic item. All right, trick magic item requires one of the magic skills. You examine a magic item you wouldn't normally or couldn't normally use in an effort to fool it and activate it temporarily. For example, this might allow a fighter to cast a spell from a wand or allow a wizard to cast a spell that's not on the arcane spell list. Now, keep in mind, a long time ago, this was the purview only of the rogue and the rogue thief. Use magical device was an actual skill. I believe in 3rd edition and in Pathfinder 1, they made that skill available to anybody that wanted to train in it. It's very, very cool and very, very useful. Now, apparently, it is its own skill feat, which is pretty neat. Attempt to check using the skill matching the item's magic tradition or matching a tradition that the spell has on its list if you try to cast a spell from the item. The relevant skills are Arcana. We know that by now. The GM determines the DC based on the item's level, possibly adjusted depending on the item and situation. If you activate a magic item that requires a spell attack roll or spell DC and you don't have the ability to cast a spell in a relevant tradition, use your level as your proficiency bonus and the highest of your int, wisdom, or charisma. If you're a master of the appropriate skill for the item's tradition, you instead use the trained proficiency bonus. And if you're legendary, you instead use the expert proficiency bonus. Success. For the rest of the current turn, you can spend actions to activate the item as if you could normally use it. Failure, you can't use the item or try to trick it again this turn, but you can on subsequent turns. And critical failure, you can't use the item and you can't try to trick it again until your next daily preparations. Alright, very cool. And that does not chain into anything else. Alright, then we've got assured identification. In this game, I don't believe that you can just cast a first level identify spell as a ritual and just be handed everything there is to know about a magical item. So this is pretty cool. Assured identification. You need a magic skill. You rarely misidentify an item when using magic skills to check to identify magic. If you roll a critical failure, you get a failure instead, so you'll never misidentify it at all. If you would misidentify a cursed item because you rolled a success but not a critical success, you simply can't identify it instead. That's pretty good. That's not bad. That is not a bad feat. Alright. We already did Eye of the Arc Lord, Magical Shorthand. All right, you need a magic skill. Learning spells comes easy to you. You're an expert in a traditions associated skill. You take 10 minutes per spell level to learn a spell of that tradition rather than 1 hour per spell level. If you fail to learn the spell, you can try it again after 1 week or after you gain a level, whichever comes first. If you're a master of the traditions associated skill, learning it takes 5 minutes per level, and if you're legendary, it takes 1 minute per level. You can use downtime to learn and inscribe new spells. This works as if you were using earn income with the tradition's associated skill, but instead of gaining money, you choose a spell available to you to learn and gain a discount at learning it for free if your earned income equals or exceeds its cost. That seems pretty self-explanatory. Seems pretty good. I feel like a lot of these exist just for wizards, which is kind of cool that there's that support for wizards. We got Crichton's Cognitive Crossover, and this is from one of their Splat books. Let's see. You need nothing. All characters have access to this feat if they are members of the Pathfinder Society. Womp womp. The trigger is you gain no information from a recall knowledge check, usually because you failed the secret check, using one of the 2 skills you chose for this feat. Crichton teaches his students that an agile mind can glean clues leading to the truth, even from the most unlikely of sources. You immediately reattempt the triggering check using the other chosen skill. When you gain this feat, choose 2 skills from this list: Arcana, crafting, any lore, medicine, nature, occult, religion, or society. Okay, that's kind of cool. Nice. And then there's something down here called Scrolls Training. The Society Master of Scrolls, Crichton Shane, may be considered strange and absent-minded by his peers, but the elf venture captain takes his duties very seriously. Skilled in researching obscure subjects and unraveling unscrutable secrets, Crichton teaches his students the value of an inquisitive mind. All right, so I feel like this uncommon skill has a lot of requirements there. I'm pretty sure it's campaign-based or organization-based. Wouldn't that be cool if in the Forgotten Realms you actually had mechanical benefits for being a member of the different factions, right? I feel like there'd be a lot more investment in the role play for those factions if there was actual prizes to win for doing so. All right. Quick recognition. All right. You got to be trained in Recognize Spell, and you've got to be trained in a magic skill. You recognize spells quickly. Once per round, you can recognize a spell without using a skill in which you're a master as a free action. Oh, recognize a spell skill using a skill in which you're a master as a free action. This leads to Clever Counterspell. All right, Clever Counterspell is a wizard only that requires this special feat that requires this other feat. So you need to be a wizard, and you need to have 2 other feats, and you need to be a master of a skill. But if you do, you gain access to the level 12 feat, Clever Counterspell. God damn, this goes deep. All right. You must also know how to counterspell. You creatively apply your prepared spells to counterspell a much wider variety of your opponent's magic. Instead of being able to counter a foe's spell with counterspell only, if you have that same spell prepared. Interesting. You could use counterspell as long as you have the spell the foe is casting in your spell book. When you use counterspell this way, the prepared spell you expend must share a trait other than its tradition with the triggering spell. At the GM's discretion, you can instead use a spell that has an opposing trait or that would otherwise logically counter the triggering spell, such as a cold or water spell to counter a fireball, or using Remove Fear to counter a fear spell. Regardless of what spell you expend, take a -2 penalty to your counteract check, though the GM can waive this penalty if the expended spell is especially appropriate. Is it just me, or does counterspelling sound dope AF in this setting? Dented Pocket says, I feel like the optional boons thing in 5e fills the role of faction bonuses. They just didn't bother to implement it. Fair enough, Dented Pockets. Fair enough. I am sure on the DM's Guild there is a supplement that has all sorts of information about the Sword Coast factions and how to mechanically reward people for it, but it would be nice, you know, to just kind of have it there. I don't know, to have it acknowledged a bit more. It's fine. Let's see. Closing out of this, closing out of that. And finally, we've got Unified Theory. All right. Unified Theory says you got to have Legendary in Arcana. And be level 15. You've started to make a meaningful connection about the common underpinnings of the four traditions of magic and magical essences, allowing you to understand them all through an arcane lens. Whenever you use a skill action or a skill feat that requires nature, occultism, or religion, depending on the magical tradition, you can use Arcana instead. If you would normally take a penalty or have a higher DC using Arcana on other magics, such as using Identify Magic, you no longer do so. Oh, wow. Okay, that's pretty damn cool. All right, so that is Arcana. Nice. All right, so let's jump into Athletics. This is a beefy one. So this is probably all we're going to do is just Arcana and Athletics, and we'll call it a day, because I got other stuff I want to do today. Arcana, and then we go Athletics. So Athletics is a strength-based skill. It allows you to perform deeds of physical prowess. When you use the escape basic action, you can use your athletics modifier instead of your unarmed attack modifier. This table provides quick reference for how far you can move with a climb or swim action based on your athletics. So let's see. If your speed is 5 to 15, the DC needs to be a 5. Critical success is a 5. That's climbing. Swimming is a 5 and a 10. If you're only going to go 20 to 35 feet, it's only a DC 5 to climb, 10 for critical success. Wow. So it's actually not that hard to climb and swim in this system, it seems. Swimming is apparently much harder than climbing, but not that much. It just penalizes you how far you want to go? Question mark? This table provides a quick reference to how far you can move the climb swift action. Okay. Interesting. Leap. The leap action is used for high jump and long jump. A leap allows you to take a careful short jump. You can leap up to 10 feet horizontally if your base speed is at least 15 feet, or up to 15 feet horizontally if your base speed is 30. You land in the space where your leap ends, meaning you typically clear a 5-foot gap if your speed is between 15 and 30 feet, or a 10-foot gap if your speed is 30 feet or more. If you make a vertical leap, you can move up to 3 feet vertically and 5 feet horizontally into an elevated space. All right, what is a high jump and a long jump? High jump requires 2 actions. What does a normal jump require? Doesn't say. Okay. All right, high jump. You stride, then make... Oh, okay, you get a movement and a jump. Then make a vertical leap and attempt a DC 30 athletics check to increase the height of your jump. If you didn't stride at least 10 feet, you automatically fail your check. This DC might be increased or decreased due to the situation as determined by your DM. If you get a critical success, you increase the maximum vertical distance to 8 feet, or increase the maximum vertical distance to 5 feet, and maximum horizontal distance to 10 feet. If you succeed, you increase the maximum vertical distance to 5 feet. Failure, you leap normally. Critical fail, you don't leap at all, and instead you fall prone in your space. So with a long jump, you stride, then make a horizontal leap, and attempt an athletics check to increase the length of your jump. Let's find out what a leap does. Hold on. All right, a leap action is a move action that costs 1 Pac-Man. You take a careful short jump. You can leap up to 10 feet horizontally if your speed is 15, is at least 15, or up to 15 if your speed is at least 30. You land in the space where your leap ends, meaning you can typically clear a 5-foot gap, 10-foot gap if your speed is 30 or more. If you leap vertically, you can move up to 3 feet vertically and 5 feet horizontally onto an elevated surface. Jumping a greater distance requires using the athletics skill. Okay. So that makes sense, because my dude jumped 20 feet essentially, so he would have done a long jump here. Okay. And that meant that there was a stride invested in it, and then also a leap action, which is what created the long jump. Got it. The DC of the athletics check is equal to the total distance in feet that you're attempting to move during your leap. So you don't need to succeed at a DC 20 to leap. Oh, so you need to succeed at a DC 20 check to leap 20 feet. You can't leap further than your speed. If you didn't stride at least 10 feet, or if you attempt to jump in a different direction than your stride, you automatically fail your check. This DC might be increased or decreased due to the situation as determined by the DM. If you succeed, you increase the maximum horizontal distance to the desired amount. If you fail, you just may take a normal leap, which it has its own problems because you're going to probably fall. And then critical failure, you leap normally, but then fall and land prone. Which again, if you couldn't make the distance anyways, you're kind of falling prone anyways. So, yeah, interesting. Let's see. The system is actually designed for high level as well, and the published campaigns go to 20. Cadenex says, "Man, high level Pathfinder sounds really epic." I think it does. Everything that I've read about it sounds pretty cool. I am curious what level Kingmaker goes to, because that's the one I'm the most interested in running right now. So if that goes all the way to 20, then ooh baby, that'll be pretty exciting. Let's see. Forced movement. The shove action can force a creature to move. When an effect forces you to move, or if you start falling, the distance you move is defined by the effect that moved you, not by your speed. Because you're not acting to move, this doesn't trigger reactions triggered by movement. We are all familiar with how that works. To see all of the feats related to athletics, look here. Okay, that seems pretty good. Here are some untrained athletic items. A movement. This requires you to have both your hands free. Interesting. This is a climb. You cannot climb with anything in your hands. You need both hands free. You move up, down, and across an incline. Unless it's particularly easy, you must attempt an athletics check. The GM determines the DC based on the nature of the incline and the environmental circumstances. You're flat-footed unless you have a climb speed. If you critically succeed, you move up, across, and safely down the incline for 5 feet, plus 5 feet per 20 feet of your land speed, a total of 10 feet for most PCs. Success. You move up, across, and safely down the incline for 5 feet per 20 feet of your land speed, generally just 5 feet for most PCs. Wow, climb speed is really good in Pathfinder 2. Oh my god, not having a climb speed is rough. Minimum 5 feet if your speed is below 20 feet. Critical failure, you fall. If you began the climb on stable ground, you fall, but you land prone. That's embarrassing. Alright. So sample tasks would be untrained, climbing a ladder, a steep slope, a low branched tree. Trained would be rigging rope, typical tree. Expert would be wall with small handholds and footholds. Master is ceiling with handholds or footholds, rock wall. And then legendary is Spider-Man. Just Spooderman. Smooth surface. Just climb it. Doesn't make any sense. Who cares? It's a game. Force open. Cost a 1, a Pac-Man. Force open is considered to be an attack. I like that. Using your body, a lever, or some other tool, you attempt to forcefully open a door, window, container, or heavy gate. With a high enough result, you can even smash through walls. Without a crowbar, prying something open takes a -2 item penalty to the athletics check to force open. Critical success. You open the door, window, container, or gate, and can avoid damaging it in the process. Interesting. Success. You break the door, window, container, or gate open, and the door, window, container, or gate gains the broken condition, which means that it has taken half of its hit points. It is the bloodied condition for objects. If it is especially sturdy, the GM might have it take damage, but not get broken. Critical failure, your attempt jams the door, window, container, or gate shut, imposing a -2 circumstance penalty on future attempts to force it open. Notice there's no cooldown, though, so you could keep trying to force it open. So here's the order of how hard it is to open stuff. Fabric and flimsy glass. No shit. Then it's ice and sturdy glass. Then it's flimsy wooden door or a wooden portcullis. Then it is... Master is sturdy wooden door. Oh, that's rough. Damn. The sturdy wooden door is already at master. That's what? 5, 10, 15, 20? DC 20 on pretty much your average door. Iron portcullis, metal bar. And then legendary would be stone or iron door. Alright. Now you've got the grapple. It costs a 1 Pac-Man, and grappling is considered to be an attack. The requirement is you must have at least 1 free hand and have your target grappled or restrained. 1 free hand or have your target grappled or restrained. Your target isn't more than 1 size larger than you. So 2 sizes larger, can't grapple them. You attempt to grab a creature or object with your free hand. Attempt an athletics check against the target's fortitude DC. You can grapple a target you already have grabbed or restrained without having a hand free. You can grapple a target you already have. Yeah, because you're already grappling them with your hand. That makes sense. Critical success. Your target is restrained until the end of your next turn, unless you move or your target escapes. Success. Your target is grabbed until the end of your next turn, unless you move or your target escapes. That seems like the same. Your target is restrained. Oh, no. Restrained is much better than grabbed. Okay, they're 2 different stats to fix. Failure, you fail to grab your target. If you already had the target grabbed and restrained using grapple, those conditions on that creature or object end. And critical failure, if you already had the object or target grabbed or restrained, it breaks free. Your target can either grab you, as if it succeeded at using the grapple action against you, or force you to fall and land prone. Oh, wow. That's kind of awesome. Okay. Next up is high jump, which we already covered, and long jump, which we already covered. Then we got shove for 1 Pac-Man. To shove, you must have at least 1 hand free. Interesting. You can't just shoulder check or shield bash someone. Huh. The target can't be more than 1 size larger than you. You push a creature away from you. Attempt an athletics check against the target's fortitude DC. If you critically succeed, you push your target up to 10 feet away from you. You can then stride after it, but you must move the same distance and in the same direction. Success, you push your target back 5 feet. You can stride after it, but you must move the same distance and the same direction. Critical failure, you lose your balance, fall prone. Wow. All right. Then we've got swimming. For 1 Pac-Man, you propel yourself through the water. In most calm water, you succeed at the action without needing to attempt a check. So everyone knows how to swim, because this is not a trained skill. This is untrained athletics. If you must breathe air and you're submerged in water, you must hold your breath each round. If you fail to hold your breath, you begin to drown. We'll figure out what drowning means. If the water you are swimming in is turbulent or otherwise dangerous, you might have to attempt an athletics check to swim. If you end your turn in water and haven't succeeded in a swim action that turn, you sink 10 feet automatically or get moved by the current as determined by the GM. However, if your last action on your turn was to enter the water, you don't sink or move with the current that turn. Okay. Critical success, you move through the water 10 feet plus 5 feet per 20 feet of your land speed, normally a total of 15 feet for most PCs. Success, you move through the water 5 feet plus 5 feet per 20 feet of your land speed, 10 feet for most PCs. Critical failure, you make no progress, and if you're holding your breath, you lose 1 round of air. Interesting. Alright, what does drowning do? Alright, special battles of encounter mode, aquatic combat, drowning and suffocation. You can hold your breath for a number of rounds equal to 5 plus your con modifier. That is significantly less than 5th edition. Reduce your remaining air by 1 at the end of each of your turns, or by 2 if you attacked or cast any spells that turn. You also lose 1 round worth of air each time you are critically hit or critically fail a save against a damaging effect. If you speak, including casting spells of verbal components or activating magical items with command components, you lose all remaining air. Oh fuck. You thought I ran aquatic combat stuff in 5e? Oh my goodness. When you run out of air, you fall unconscious and you start suffocating. You can't. Oh, by the way, my house rule for casting spells underwater is the level of the spell. You lose that many rounds of held breath when you kind of shout the spell into the water or whatever. Raw, I believe you would start immediately drowning. So I actually run it softer, I think, than you're supposed to for spellcasters, which is counterintuitive to my whole life view. I guess I'm just a softie. I don't know. But in Pathfinder, it's officially put out here just how hard underwater combat is. When you run out of air, you fall unconscious and start suffocating. Oh shit! So you get one verbal spell off, and then you start suffocating. You can't recover from being unconscious, and you must attempt a DC 20 Fortitude save at the end of each of your turns. On a failure, you take 1d10 damage. Oh my god! And on a critical failure, you die! Whoa! You could just die right away! Oh my god! Oh my god. Oh man. Okay. On oof. On each check after the first, the DC increases by 5, and the damage increases by another 1d10. These are all cumulative. Once your access to air is restored, you stop suffocating, and you are no longer unconscious unless you're currently at 0 hit points. God damn! I am never going near the water in Pathfinder ever. The fact that I crossed a bridge over water, what was I thinking? Oh man, the fact that I live near water, my character's ever taken a bath, never again. Never again. Oh man, that's crazy. Alright, then we have the Trip skill. Trip costs 1 Pac-Man, and apparently you have to have one hand free to trip people. Why do you have to have a hand free to trip people? What is that just a balance thing? Why would you need to have a hand free to trip someone? Haven't they played Mortal Kombat 2? You just do a sweep kick. So easy. Oh my god. Alright, whatever. The rules are the rules, I guess. You try to knock a creature to the ground. Attempt an athletics check against their reflex DC. Critical success. The target falls and lands prone and takes 1d6 bludgeoning damage. Regular success, they fall prone. And then critical failure, you lose your balance and you fall prone like a goof. Alright, athletics trained action. So the only trained athletics action I see here is disarm. Disarm costs 1 Pac-Man. It is an attack action. Your requirements are you have at least one hand free. A lot of this one hand free thing, man, they really value shields in this system for sure. Okay, let's see. You try to knock something out of a creature's grasp. Attempt an athletics check against the creature's reflex DC. On a critical success, you knock the item out of their grasp. It falls to the ground in their space. That's a critical success. Success, you weaken your target's grasp on the item until the start of the creature's turn. Attempts to disarm the target of that item gain a +2 circumstance bonus, and the target takes a -2 circumstance bonus to attacks with the item or other checks that require a firm grip on the item. Okay, that's kind of cool. Would that also count to holding onto it? So does that create essentially a +4 bonus to disarm them if you try a second time? Because a -2 circumstance bonus to attacks or other checks, would that then be a check is a dice roll? Would their reflex DC go down by 2, creating a spread of 4? Because that sounds cool. Critical failure, you lose your balance and become flat-footed until the start of your next turn. Falling. When you fall more than 5 feet, you take fall damage when you land, which is bludgeoning damage equal to half the distance you fell. If you... Oh, you don't roll for it. That's right. It's just half the damage. If you would take any damage from a fall, you're knocked prone when you land. If you fall into water, snow, or other soft substance, calculate the damage from the fall as though your fall is 20 feet shorter. Okay, falling in water 10 feet deep, you treat the fall as 10 feet shorter. You can grab an edge as a reaction to reduce or eliminate the damage from some falls. More detailed rules for falling damage appear on page 463. Okay. Man. Can you attempt these actions with a buckler? Man, boy, I don't know. I don't know. Let's see. Buckler. Alright. The buckler costs 1 gold, and it gives you a +1 AC bonus, and has no speed penalties. It has a bulk of L, a hardness of 3, and it has hit points of 6, and becomes broken after taking only 3 points of damage. This is a very small shield. It's a favorite of duelists and quick light armored warriors. It's typically made of steel and strapped to your forearm. You can raise shield with your buckler as long as you have a hand free or holding a light object that is not a weapon in that hand. As long as you have that hand free. So, yes? I guess a buckler does count as having your hand free? Question mark? Does a regular shield? A shield can increase your character's defense beyond the protection their armor provides. Your character must be wielding a shield in one hand to make use of it, and it grants its bonus to AC only if they use an action to raise a shield. This action grants the shield's bonus to AC as a circumstance bonus until their next turn starts. A shield's speed penalty applies whenever your character is holding the shield, whether they have it raised or not. Click here for full rules on shields as we just go further and further down the rabbit hole. Alright. What are the rules for teleporting in midair? Shut the fuck up. I'm learning how the skills work, Cadenex. What are you doing? Get out of here. Alright. Shields. A shield could increase your character's defense behind... What a question. A shield could increase your character's defense beyond the protection their armor provides. Your character must be wielding a shield in one hand to make use of it, and it grants its bonus to AC only if they use an action to raise a shield. This action grants the shield's bonus to AC as a circumstance bonus until the next turn starts. A shield's speed penalty applies whenever your character is holding it, whether or not they have it raised. Raising the shield is an action most commonly used with shields. Most shields must be held in one hand, so you can't hold anything with that hand and raise a shield. A buckler, however, doesn't take up your hand. There you go. So you could raise a shield with a buckler in the hand is free or at the GM's discretion if it's holding a simple lightweight object that's not a weapon. You lose the benefits of raise a shield if that hand is no longer free. When you have a tower shield raised, you can use the take cover action to increase the circumstance bonus to AC to +4. Wow. This lasts until the shield is no longer raised. If you would normally provide lesser cover against an attack, having a tower shield raised provides standard cover against it, and other creatures can take cover as normal using the cover from your shield. Oh, that's amazing. Okay. If you have access to the shield block reaction from your class or from a feat, you could use it while raising your shield to reduce the damage you take by an amount equal to the shield's hardness. Both you and the shield then take any remaining damage. Wow. Alright. You can also attack with a shield. A shield can be used as a martial weapon for attacks using the statistics listed for a shield bash on table 6-7 melee weapons. The shield bash is an option only for shields that weren't designed to be used as weapons. Jesus Christ. A shield can't have runes added to it. You can also buy and attach a shield boss or shield spikes to a shield to make it a more practical weapon. These work like other weapons and then can be etched with runes. Wow! That's complicated. But I get it. So, answering the question that had something to do with what we were studying, buckler is a free hand. There you go. But bucklers also ain't that great. But, I mean, at low level, why not? Why not? Alright, let's go back to athletics. We're done. So let's go to the feats. For shields that impose speed penalties, are skills that increase your speed do it before or after the reduction? That is a good question. Alright, let's check. So let's see. Checking on shields. Shield rules. Shield traits. Let's see. Shield statistics. Speed penalty. See page 274 for the rules on those tactics. Let's see. They only cover AC bonus, hardness, and HBBT. I guess we'd have to Google it to know for sure. Let's see. Reduced speed from shield applied before or after other bonuses. Pathfinder 2E. All right. Let's see. We've got shields by Pathfinder 2 Easy. Let's see. A shield can increase your character's defense, blah, blah, blah. Shield statistics. Attacking with a shield. Descriptions of shields. I don't know. I don't know when the effect comes into play. The only one that has a penalty is the tower shield, though. So I don't think it's something that you have to worry about that much. I believe that your speed penalty affects your core ability. Your core speed. Let's see. Most characters and monsters have a speed statistic, also called land speed, which indicates how quickly they can move across the surface. When you use a stride action, you move a number of feet equal to your speed. Numerous other abilities also allow you to move, from crawling to leaping, and most of them are based on your speed in some way. Whenever a rule mentions your speed without specifying a type, it's referring to your land speed. Yeah, I want to say that they just all get added together based on what type they are. Keep in mind that there's 3 different types of bonuses that you could have. And you take the biggest, or I guess the biggest negative from each one. So if you had a negative penalty to speed from circumstance, but you had a bonus to speed from circumstance, those would be the ones that balance each other out. You take the biggest negative and the biggest positive, and you do math on them. That's my assumption. If anybody knows otherwise, let me know in chat or the comments, so we know how that works. I don't know how we got so deep into fucking shields. Let's go back to athletic feats. All kinds of experiences and training can shape your character beyond what you learn by advancing in your class. Abilities that require a degree of training but can't be learned by anyone. Abilities that require a degree of training but can be learned by anyone, not only members of certain ancestries or classes, are called general feats. All right. There are a lot. Let's take a deep breath and go for it. Armor Assist. Armor Assist is a general skill you get at level 1. The DCs for the Armor Assist feat are not subject to GM adjudication. Rather, use the default DCs listed in the feat, 15 for common, 20 for uncommon, and 25 for rare. That's interesting. So PFS, I believe, is Pathfinder Society, which is official league play. But it's generally a good idea, especially if you're starting the game for the first time as a DM, to just follow those notes because they're there for a reason. Fortunately, my DM is experienced and he doesn't follow those rules all the time. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to play the character that I'm playing, because an official Pathfinder Society rule is you're only ever allowed to have 2 controllable pawns on the board at a time, which means that a summoner with their Eidolon out is not also allowed to have a familiar in play and or summon monsters. So I'm kind of happy that that rule isn't in play. You need to have training in athletics or warfare lore. So remember, lore can be anything, and so if you said you had war or warfare as a lore skill, it would count. Armor assistance. After you service aiding armored combatants, you are practiced in. After your service aiding armored combatants, you are practiced in helping yourself and others don heavy gear. You can attempt an athletics or warfare lore check with a DC determined by the GM to have the time it takes to don armor. You can have an ally's time to don armor by working with them to don the armor and succeeding at such a check. Oh, okay. That's pretty cool. Does that stack? If I have that skill and someone else has that skill, can I get dressed hella fast? I don't know. That'd be pretty cool, though. I know that donning an armor still takes a hell of a long time in Pathfinder, so I'm wondering how often you would take that, and if that is something that you would actually need. Or do you just accept that you're not going to have armor for this particular fight? Combat Climber. All right, your techniques allow you to fight as you climb. This is a level feat, general skill, training in athletics. You're not flat-footed while climbing, and you can climb with one hand occupied. There we go. You must still use another hand and both legs to climb. I like that. I think if I was a fighter or a rogue, or a swashbuckler or something similar to that, I might be tempted to take Combat Climber. That seems like a pretty good skill feat. All right, Hefty Hauler, also known as Truck Booty. Hefty Hauler is a level 1 feat. It's general and its skill and its athletics. You can carry more than your frame implies. Increase your maximum and encumbered bulk limits by 2. Okay. I mean, it sounds good. And let's see. Quick Jump. Quick Jump sounds really good. You can use, sorry, this is a level 1 feat, general skill, athletics. You can use high jump and long jump as a single action instead of 2 actions. Hot damn. If you do, you don't perform the initial stride, nor do you fail if you don't stride 10 feet. God damn. That's a good feat. Wow. I mean, if you're a melee character, I feel like you're going to want to take that feat just to make sure that you're able to get around the battlefield. All right, next up we got Titan Wrestler. Titan Wrestler says it is a level 1 general skill athletics. You can attempt to disarm, grapple, shove, or trip action on creatures up to 2 sizes larger than you, or up to 3 sizes larger than you once you are legendary in athletics. Well, that is awesome. So as a smalls, you could take that as your level 1 feat, and now you can grapple the big boys, shove them around, all that good stuff. That's awesome. All right, next up we've got Underwater Marauder. After hearing how dangerous underwater combat is, I'm curious what this does. This is a level 1 general feat for athletics. You've learned to fight underwater. You are not flat-footed while in water, and you don't take the usual penalties for using a bludgeoning or slashing weapon while you are in water. That seems pretty good. I wouldn't want to fight in water. I would just try to leave the water. I don't know. I think my adventure will end when water arrives. That's my take. Lead Climber. This is a level 2 skill feat, training in athletics, and when climbing, you can prepare routes for others to follow. You can pull your allies up to avoid disaster. When your allies attempt to climb a route you set using the Follow the Expert exploration activity, if any of them critically fail their checks to climb, you can attempt an athletics check using the same DC. If you succeed, your ally fails instead of critically failing. If you also critically fail, you both experience the consequences of the critical failure. How interesting. How low... Man, everything in Pathfinder 2, it seems like it's going to be very difficult, but very satisfying to do. I think the value of these skills and these skill feats will really become more apparent as we dig into magic and we find out what magic can and can't do. Because coming from 5th edition D&D, everything that you would struggle to do in the game, the magic system of 5e basically trivializes everything. So I am curious if magic still trivializes all of these skills, or if they are still important in the game, especially at the higher levels of play. But I guess we'll find out through experience and research. Then we've got Powerful Leap. So Powerful Leap is a different kind of leap. So there's 2 different jumping feats. This is a level 2 one. It doesn't have any prerequisites other than athletics. When you leap, you can jump 5 feet up with the vertical leap, and you can increase the distance you can jump horizontally by 5 feet. That also seems pretty damn cool. I'm going to have to keep all of this in mind for my skeletal barbarian, who's my backup character, because all this is sounding pretty dope. All right, then we go to Rapid Mantle. Rapid Mantle is a level 2 feat that only requires proficiency in athletics. You easily pull yourself onto ledges. When you grab an edge as a reaction action, you can pull yourself onto that surface and stand. You could use athletics instead of a reflex save to grab an edge. Oh, hell yeah. Okay, that's pretty cool. Falling, you automatically take half the damage of the distance, so I mean, it could be real painful. And they don't cap fall damage in this game. So you could take infinity damage, I guess, if you fall far enough. Alright, then we've got Say That Again. This is an athletics feat that is level 6, but it does have spoilers from the Kingmaker adventure path. Oh no! This is a rare skill that is available through the Kingmaker expansion Companion's Guide. You need expertise in athletics. It's a reaction, so an opponent has to get a critical failure when attempting to demoralize or lie to you. The world is full of obnoxious weasels who think they can pull one over on you, and you put them in their place. When an adjacent creature attempts to lie to you or demoralize you and gets a critical failure, you could use a reaction to attempt to shove them. If combat results, you could roll Intimidation for your initiative check. What a weird thing to spend a level 6 feat on. Like, there's so many things that have to happen for this to really come into play. Okay. Alright, then we've got Quick Climb. Quick Climb is a level 7 feat. It requires mastery in athletics. When climbing, you move 5 more feet on a success and 10 more feet on a critical success to a maximum of your actual speed. How fucking hard is it to get a climb speed? If you're legendary in athletics, you gain a climb speed. I guess it's that hard. I guess it's that hard to get a climb speed. Holy shit. Oh my god. Anything with a wow. Any kind of speed besides regular speed is apparently a big deal. Alright, wall jump. That sounds awesome. This is a level 7 athletics skill. You must be a master of athletics to get this. You can use your momentum from a jump to propel yourself off a wall. If you're adjacent to a wall at the end of a jump, whether performing a high jump, a long jump, or a leap, you don't fall as long as your next action is another jump. Furthermore, since your previous jump gives you momentum, you could use high jump or long jump as a single action, but you don't get to stride as part of the activity. You can use wall jump only once in a turn unless you're legendary in athletics, in which case you could use wall jump as many times as you want. And you could use consecutive jump actions in that turn. This will actually unlock the super feat Ricochet Leap. This game is fucking awesome. Ricocheting Leap is a level 9 athletics feat. You must also have wall jumping. This was introduced in the Mwangi expansion. Our Skull and Shackles guys swung by Mwangi at some point. You quickly use your momentum to topple and spring off of foes. You can use wall jump to make additional jumps off of creatures larger than you as if they were walls. Once per turn, when you make an additional jump off a creature this way, you can also attempt a shove or trip as a free action. What? Is this only allowed by Gripply? I think it's only allowed by Gripply. Okay. Alright, man, if everybody could get that, oh my god. So if you are wondering what a Gripply is a frog person. If you watched Skull and Shackles, that is what all the frog people in that were based on. They were not based on bullywugs. Bullywugs are stupid. They were based on Gripply. Shivaka, everyone that lived in Chozu, things like that, they were all based off of the Gripply. Man, that's awesome. I kind of want to play a Gripply now. I mean, you could make any character ever. So, Chrono Trigger, you could make Frog by making a Gripply Paladin, and this motherfucker could jump onto a giant and then backflip kick off the giant to land somewhere else, and then knock the giant down at the same time. It's crazy. It's crazy. Oh, man. Alright. Let's see. What else can these feats do? Let's see. Water sprint. Okay. This is a level 7 athletics skill. You must be a master of athletics. Experiencing training have taught you that water has just enough surface tension for a master sprinter to travel the surface. Oh, of course it does. When you stride in a straight line, if you move at least half your speed over ground, you can move any amount of the remaining distance across a level body of water. If you don't end your stride on solid ground, you will fall into the water. However, Jesus Christ, if you're legendary in athletics, as long as you start on solid ground, any part of your stride can cross the water surface, even if you aren't moving in a straight line, although you still fall into the water if you don't end your movement on solid ground. That's pretty cool. So walking on water is not just for monks anymore, though I would assume it's best for monks because they have all that stuff. My goal is to figure out how to double jump. That sounds like, man, there's some cool stuff here, guys. All right, let's close that. And then we got cloud jump. Cloud jump sounds pretty cool. All right. This is a level 15 feat, and you have to be legendary in athletics. Your unparalleled athletic skill allows you to jump impossible distances, triple the distance you long jump, so you could jump 60 feet on a successful DC 20 check. When you high jump, use the calculation for a long jump, but don't triple the distances. You can jump a distance greater than your speed by spending additional actions when you long jump or high jump. For each additional action spent, add your speed to the limit of how far you can leap. So 3 action economy, assuming you had a normal speed of 30, you could jump 120 feet long in a long jump, and I guess you could jump, 60 feet straight up in the air. That's fucking crazy. So much support for non-casters, for marshals. Keep in mind that these are available to anybody. So if you, for whatever reason, have a wizard and the wizard thinks that it would be cool to be good at athletics, they can also take these things. So much variety and versatility in the system. Damn. Well, we've been doing this for an hour, and I do have other things that I wanted to do today, but I'm also really excited about the system. Maybe we could do one more skill. We'll do one more skill. Alright, so the next skill is crafting, and I believe crafting is a bit of a doozy. Maybe we should stop at crafting. Nah, I kind of want to know how crafting works. Alright, let me close all these other guys out. Take a deep breath. Get a sip of sody. Alright. Let's go. Crafting. The default skill is intelligence. You can use this skill to create, understand, and repair items. Even if you're untrained, you can recall knowledge about how things are built. Recall knowledge about alchemical reactions, the value of items, engineering, unusual materials, and alchemical or mechanical creatures. The GM determines which creatures this applies to, usually constructs. Crafting has many trained actions. The most commonly used one is earn income, which I believe we already covered in another video. Consumables and ammunition. You can craft items with the consumable trait in batches, making up to 4 of the same item at once with a single check. This requires you to include the raw materials for all the items in the batch at the start, and you must complete the batch all at once. You can also craft non-magical ammunition in batches using the quantity listed in the ranged weapons table. Alright, what does that mean? Let's see, where is my ranged weapons table? Show me my ranged weapons, where are they? Weapon categories. Ah, man. Base weapons, ranged weapons. Alright, let's see. Oh, is that covered over here? I'm zoomed in too close, the table's broken. Alright. Alright, we'll just search real quick. ranged weapon. Gravity weapon, ranger, ranged weapon, ranged reprisal, ranged trip, range, weapon statistics. Ranged and thrown weapons have range increment. Attacking with these weapons work normally up to that distance. Attack rolls beyond a weapon's range increment take a -2 penalty for each additional multiple of that increment between you and your target. Attacks beyond the 6 range increment are impossible. For example, a short bow takes no. Okay, well, we know that. I don't understand where this table is telling us to go. Using the quantity listed in the ranged weapon table, typically 10. I'll just take your fucking word for it, honestly. Getting formulas. You can access the formulas for all common items in Chapter 6 Equipment by purchasing a basic crafter's book. See formula for information on how to acquire other formulas. Alright. Let's see. How do we see more formulas? Show me. Formula rules. Formulas are instructions for making items with the craft activity. You can usually read a formula as long as you can read the language it's written in, though you might lack the skill to craft the item. Often alchemists and crafting guilds use obscure languages to create codes to protect their formula from rivals. You can buy common formulas at the price listed on tables 613. Or you can hire an NPC to let you copy their formulas at the same price. A purchased formula typically is schematic on a rolled up parchment of light bulk. You could copy a formula onto your formula book in 1 hour, either from a schematic or directly from someone else's formula book. If you have a formula, you can craft a copy of it using the crafting skill. Formulas for uncommon items and rare items are usually significantly more valuable, if you can find them at all. If you have an item, you can try to reverse engineer its formula. This uses the craft activity and takes the same amount of time as creating the item from a formula would. You must first disassemble the item. After the base downtime, you attempt a crafting check against the same DC it would take to craft the item. If you succeed, you craft the formula at its full price, and you can keep working to reduce the price as normal. If you fail, you're left with raw materials and no formula. If you critically fail, you also waste 10% of the raw materials you would normally be able to salvage. The item's disassembled parts are worth half its price in raw materials and can't be reassembled unless you successfully reverse engineer the formula or acquire the formula another way. Reassembling the item from the formula works just like crafting it from scratch. You can use the disassembled parts as the necessary raw materials. God damn. Alright, so level 0 items, the formulas are pretty cheap. Even the level 20 stuff is only 3,500 gold. I don't know how stingy the game is with gold, but that doesn't seem like a lot of money at level 20. Formulas for all level 0 common items from the book can be found and purchased from a basic crafter's book. Well, that's good to know. Now, I read online the meta of the game. It's generally, if you're in an area where you could buy things easily, like if you're in Civilization, low-level crafting is a very bad use of time. You'll just make more money doing downtime and just buy the items than if you actually tried to craft the items yourself. Low-level crafting is more, you're not able to go back to town, you're in a rural area, you're out in the middle of nowhere. That's why you would start crafting these lower-level items. But otherwise, mechanically, it's supposed to be better to just do crafting as your downtime activity to get money, and then you use that money just to buy the items that you need. Alright, which makes sense, honestly, because it's like you could buy lunch, or you could like buy all the ingredients and then spend all the time to cook yourself lunch, you know? Alright, let's see. Untrained crafting items. Repair. So this is an exploration thing. That is a manipulate. You have to have a repair kit. You spend 10 minutes attempting to fix a damaged item. Keep in mind that any item that takes damage equal to half of its max hit points becomes broken and not very useful. Sometimes not useful at all. The GM sets the DC, but it's usually about the same DC to repair a given item as it is to craft it in the first place. You can't repair a destroyed item. If you critically succeed, you restore 10 hit points to the item, plus an additional 10 hit points per proficiency rank you have in crafting. 20 if you're trained, 30 if you're an expert, 40 if you're a master, and 50 if you are legendary. If you normally succeed, you restore 5 hit points to the item plus 5 per rank. And if you critically fail, you actually deal 2d6 more damage to the item, though it does get its hardness bonus to avoid this damage. Okay. That's pretty cool. That's the only, there's only those 2 untrained actions, Recall Knowledge and Repair. I think it's kind of cool that you can try to repair something even if you're not skilled, because I think all of us have tried to repair things if they're unskilled, and if it's a simple enough thing, you generally figure it out. And if you don't, you break it. Crafting trained actions. The first one is, of course, crafting. This is a downtime activity, and it has the manipulate tag. You can make an item from raw materials. You need the alchemical crafting skill feat to create alchemical items, the magical crafting skill feat to create magic items, and the snare crafting feat to create snares. To craft an item, you must meet the following requirements. The item is your level or lower. An item that doesn't list this is always level 0. If the item is 9th level or higher, you must be a master in crafting. And if the item is 16th level or higher, you must be legendary. You have the formula for the item. Getting formulas, etc., etc. You have an appropriate set of tools and in many cases a workshop. For example, you need access to a smithy to forge a metal shield or an alchemist lab to produce alchemical items. Well, that's interesting to note. Okay. You must supply raw materials worth at least half the item's price. You always expend at least that amount on raw materials when you craft successfully. If you're in a settlement, you can usually spend currency to get the raw materials needed, except in the case of rarer precious materials. You must then spend 4 days at work. 4 days! At which point you attempt a crafting check. The GM determines the DC to craft the item based on its level, rarity, and other circumstances. If your attempt to create the item is successful, you expend the raw materials you supplied. You can pay the remaining portion of the item's price of materials to complete the item immediately, or you can spend additional downtime days working on it. For each additional day you spend, you reduce the value of the materials you need to expend to complete the item. This amount is determined using tables 4-2 income earn based on your proficiency rank in crafting and using your own level instead of a task level. After any of these downtime days, you can complete the item by spending the remaining portion of its price in materials. If the downtime days you spend are interrupted, you can return to finishing an item later, continuing where you left off. A good example of crafting appears in the sidebar. Alright, well, let's look at the sidebar, I guess. Critical success. Your attempt is successful. Each additional day spent crafting reduces the materials needed to craft the item by an additional amount based on your level, +1, and proficiency rank in crafting. Your attempt is successful and a regular success. Each additional day spent crafting reduces the materials needed to complete the item by an amount based on your level and your proficiency rank. Okay. And then failure, you fail to complete the item. You can salvage the raw materials you supplied for their full value. If you want to try again, you must start over. And critical failure, you lose 10% of your stuff, and you have to start over. To give you an idea of income earned, they put the table back here to show you. You really don't earn all that much money. Again, crafting is very expensive for time and for money. So if you have more time than money, you definitely want to take advantage of that after 4 days, sinking a bunch of time into it to save on funds. Crafting sidebar. It said that there was a sidebar. Where's the sidebar? In the sidebar. Do we not have a sidebar? I guess we don't, because this isn't actually the book. Oh well. Alright, so let's see. Identify alchemy is a crafting skill. It requires training, and you also must have alchemist tools. You can identify the nature of an alchemical item with 10 minutes of testing using alchemist tools. If your attempt is interrupted in any way, you must start over. You identify the item and the means of activating it on a success. You fail to identify the item, but you can try again on a failure. On a critical failure, you misidentify the item as an item of the GM's choice. Here is the crafting example. The sidebars are the things at the very bottom with the little green headers. Okay. Ezrin is a 5th level wizard and an expert in crafting. He has a crafting modifier of plus 13 and the magical crafting feat. With 2 weeks of downtime ahead of him, he decides to craft a striking rune, a 4th level item. The GM secretly chooses a DC of 19. The item has a price of 65 gold, so Ezrin prepares 32 gold, 5 silver pieces worth of raw materials. He has another 32 gold, 5 silver pieces worth of raw materials on hand. After spending 4 days building and incanting spells, he rolls a 12 on his crafting check, getting a result of 25, a success. At this point, Ezrin can spend the additional 32 gold, 5 silver worth of materials to complete the item immediately, paying its full market value. However, Ezrin has 10 more days on his hands, so he decides to spend additional time to complete the item. Because he's a 5th level character and an expert at crafting, he can reduce the amount he has to pay by 1 GP for each day spent. After spending 10 days working, he reduces the cost of the completed item from 65 gold to 55 gold. He spends the remaining portion of its price in materials, completes the striking rune, and goes out on his next adventure. He could have stayed home and kept working on the striking rune, eventually reducing the item's total price to just half what he paid for it, but honestly, adventuring is far more lucrative. If Ezrin's crafting skill were a 29 or higher, he'd have gotten a critical success. In that case, he'd reduce the amount by 2 GP per day, lowering the amount needed to complete the item by an additional 10 to only 45 gold pieces. So, the takeaway here is that crafting takes a lot of time and a lot of money. But maybe there's some feats that will make it a little bit easier. All right, look at all these crafting feats. Here we go. Alchemical crafting is a feat. You may pick this feat up at level 1. You have to be trained in crafting. You could use the craft activity to create alchemical items. When you select this feat, you immediately add the formulas for 4 common 1st level alchemical items to your formula book. Alchemical crafting leads to assassin dedication. Alright, what's that do? Feat 2. So this is a level 2 archetype dedication. You must be an assassin archetype. And you must have alchemical crafting, and you must be trained in crafting, deception, and stealth. Apparently, poison is really good, and they don't want you to have it. You've trained to assassinate your foes, and you do so with tenacity and precision. You gain the Mark for Death activity. This costs 1 human centipede or 3 Pac-Mans to mark someone for death. You can see and hear the creature you intend to mark. Effect. You designate a single creature as your mark. This lasts until the mark dies, or you use the mark for death again. That's a long duration. You gain a +2 circumstance bonus to perception checks to seek your mark, and on deception checks and feints against your mark. Your agile and finesse weapons and unarmed attacks gain the backstabber and deadly D6 weapon traits when you're attacking your mark. If the weapon or unarmed attack already has the deadly trait, increase the size of the deadly damage die by 1 step instead of giving it deadly d6. Jumpin' Jesus Christ. Assassin dedication leads to Angel of Death, Angel of Vindication, Assassinate, Eclipse Vitality, Expert Backstabber, and Surprise Attack. What? Okay. There's a lot to digest there. I know what a lot of this stuff means. What does backstabber and what does deadly mean? Alright. When you hit a flat-footed creature with a backstabbing weapon, it deals 1 precision damage in addition to its normal damage. The precision damage increases to 2 if the weapon is a +3 weapon. Oh, that's not that good. Alright. And then deadly. On a critical hit, the weapon adds another weapon die of the listed size. Oh, okay. That's all seems pretty manageable. I don't think I'm gonna go down this assassin dedication path. I don't want to read all that. All right. I'm sure we'll cover it someday. Let's see. Crafter's Appraisal. Okay. This is a level 1 feat. You got to be proficient in crafting. Your knowledge of items construction allows you to discern their magical effects as well. You can use crafting instead of a magic skill to identify magic on magic items, though not any other sorts of magic. That's pretty dope, honestly. Alright, let's see what else we got. Improvise Tool. This is a level 1 feat for crafting. You can jury-rig solutions when you don't have the proper tools on hand. You may attempt to repair damaged items without using a repair kit. If you have the raw materials available, you can craft a basic caltrop set, candle, compass, crowbar, fishing tackle, flint and steel, hammer, ladder, piton, rope, 10-foot pole, replacement thieves' picks, long or short tool, or torch without consulting your basic crafter's handbook. Again, I guess for like a wilderness survival campaign, that's pretty cool. Alright, then we've got quick repair. You take 1 minute to repair an item. If you're a master at crafting, it takes 3 actions. If you're legendary, it takes 1 action. That is pretty fucking cool. That is a feat 1, so you could actually fix something in the middle of a battle. That's kind of cool. Once you get higher in level. Let's see. Seasoned. Let's see. It's a level 1 feat. You need to be trained in crafting, cooking lore, or alcohol lore. You've mastered the preparation of many types of food and drink. You gain a +1 circumstance bonus to craft food and drink, including potions, because potions are a drink. Interesting. If you are a master in one of the prerequisite skills, this bonus increases to +2. That's kind of cool. Aw, thank you. Let's see. Next up is snare crafting. This is some big Monster Hunter energy here. This is a level 1 feat. It is crafting. You could use the craft activity to create snares. When you create this feat, you add the formula for 4 common snares to your formula book. What the fuck is a snare? Alright, snares. Snares are small annoyances and simple traps that you can create using the crafting skill if you have the snare crafting feat. Creating a snare requires a snare kit and an amount of raw materials worth the amount listed in the snare's price entry. Unlike other items, found snares cannot be collected or sold in their complete form. Snares have the snare trait, and there's a bunch of rules on snares. Let's see. Crafting a snare. A snare is built with a single 5-foot square. Once constructed, it can't be moved without destroying and often triggering the snare. You must have snare crafting feat to create snares. You can spend 1 minute to craft a snare at its listed price. If you want to create a snare at a discount, you must spend downtime as described in the craft activity. No thanks. What? 4 days to make a snare? Some snares have additional requirements beyond those stated in the craft activity. These snares list the requirement in a craft requirement entry. Detecting snares. Creatures can detect snares as they would detect any trap or hazard, as described here, using a creator's crafting DC as the snare's stealth DC. If you become better at creating snares, by the way, this is a passive thing, so you don't have to out of nowhere tell the DM, oh, this is my crafting check to build this thing. They would just reference your passive DC, essentially. If you become better at creating snares, your snares become harder to detect by those with lesser ability. If you are an expert in crafting, only a creature that is trained in perception can find your snares. If you are a master in crafting, only a creature that is an expert in perception can find your snares. And if you're legendary at crafting, only a creature that is a master of perception can find your snares. That's cool. If your proficiency rank is expert or better in crafting, only creatures actively searching can find your snares. So no passive checks to find them. Triggering snares, unless stated otherwise in a snare's description, when a smaller or larger creature enters the square's space, the snare's square, the snare square, the snare's effect occurs, and then the snare is destroyed. Disabling snares. Once a creature discovers a snare, it can disable it much like any other physical trap using the disable a device action of the thievery skill and using the crafting DC of the snares creator as the DC. As you become better at creating snares, your snares become harder to disable to those with lesser ability. If you are expert, only a creature that is trained in thievery can disable them. If you're a master, they have to be an expert. And if you are legendary, they have to be a master. You can automatically disarm a snare that you personally crafted without triggering it by spending an interact action while adjacent to the snare. Hey, what's up? This is pretty cool because now there are real rules for how to make and use traps as a player character, which is kind of nice. All right. Then we have specialty crafting. By the way, the snare feat unlocks a bunch of better snare feats, but we're not going to read them. Specialty crafting. This is a level 1 feat. You got to be crafting. You're training focused on crafting one particular type of item. Select one of the specialties listed below. You gain a +1 circumstance bonus to crafting checks to craft items of that type. If you are a master of crafting, it goes to +2. It is if it's unclear when the specialty applies, the GM will decide. Some specialties might apply only partially. For example, if you're making a Morning Star and had a specialty in woodworking, the GM might give you half your bonus because it requires both blacksmithing and woodworking. Alchemy, artistry, blacksmithing, bookmaking, glassmaking, leatherworking, pottery, shipbuilding, excuse me, stonemasonry, tailoring, weaving, and woodworking. Oh, they have consumables, so you can make 4 of them over 4 days. Oh, very nice. Okay. But you have to have enough money to pay for all 4, and they all have to be the same type of snare. Is that correct, Captain Cuddles? Let's see. Specialty crafting leads to impeccable crafting. Impeccable crafting says, you craft flawless creations with great efficiency. Whenever you roll a success at crafting check to make an item of the type you chose, you get a critical success instead. Oh, that's nice. Oh, okay. So if specialty crafting is a circumstance bonus, what is the bonus from seasoned? That is also, so seasoned would not stack with specialty if you really wanted to be good at making potions or food. Okay, got it. Why would you take seasoned then over the other one? What is the real Benny here? If you've mastered, I guess because it covers like all food and drink. Not really seeing the benefit of taking seasoned over specialty crafting, because seasoned doesn't unlock another trait or another feat either. But then again, there is no cooking covered under specialty crafting. But then again, alchemy is covered. That's rough. I don't know. Oh well. Maybe there's like good rules for making food. I don't know. Magical crafting. All right. Let's see. Magical crafting is a level 2 crafting feat. You could craft magical items, though some have other requirements, as listed in Chapter 11. When you select this feat, you gain a formula for 4 common magic items of 2nd level or lower. Oh, that's pretty cool. That's how it was in 4th edition, y'all. Anybody could learn to make magical items. They didn't necessarily, like, it wasn't just wizards that could make magical items. Like, anybody could learn how to make magical items. Tattoo artist. This is a level 2 crafting feat, but you must be a rune lord. I don't know what that means, but there you go. It's a type of archetype, I guess, like the assassin. You can craft tattoos, including magical tattoos. When you select this feat, you gain the formula for 4 common magical tattoos of level 2 or lower. You gain a +1 circumstance bonus when crafting tattoos, and if you're master, you get a +2 bonus. All right. Tweak appearances. All right. This is from Age of Ashes. This is a level 2 crafting feat. It is uncommon, but it has no other requirements. You spend 1 minute making a quick adjustment to someone's clothing appearance, causing their words to carry more weight with an audience of your choice. While speaking to that audience, the target gets a +1 bonus to diplomacy and performance checks. If you have mastery in crafting, the bonus is +2. If you have legendary, it is a +3. This lasts until the ability is used on the target again. The situation they were prepared for ends, or they next change their outfit. That's pretty cool. I take it that in Age of Ashes there are a lot of like social encounters that have to be navigated, because it sounds kind of cool. I could see that being super useful in a campaign like Dragon Heist in Dungeons & Dragons. Kind of neat. Let's see. Crichton's cognitive crossover. All right. You got to be in the Pathfinder Society, and you got to have recall knowledge. We already went over this skill, so we're going to skip it, or this feat. Bless Tonic. This is from the source book Gods and Magic. It requires you to be level 7, be a master of crafting, and you must have a deity who grants heal divine font. That's a lot of requirements. You channel positive energy into restoratives that ward against harm. When you craft an alchemical item that restores hit points, rather than create it with advanced alchemy, quick alchemy, or another means, it becomes a blessed alchemical item and gains the positive trait. For example, an elixir of life might become a blessed elixir of life. When a creature regains hit points using a blessed alchemical item, the overflowing energy grants them negative resistance 5 for 1 round, or negative resistance 10 if you are legendary in crafting. Okay, that seems highly specialized, but cool. We have Blessed Toxin. Okay. So this is a level 7 feat from Gods and Magic. You gotta have Master in Crafting and a deity who grants harm. You pour negative energy into toxins you create to further debilitate your targets. When you craft an alchemical poison, rather than create it with advanced alchemy, quick alchemy, or some other means, it becomes a blessed alchemical poison and gains the negative trait. When a creature is afflicted by a blessed alchemical poison for 1 round, any hit points it would regain from a positive effect are reduced by 5 or by 10. Okay, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. All right, impeccable crafting we already looked at. Inventor. All right. If, let's see, this is a level 7 Master of Crafting. You are a genius at crafting, easily able to determine how things are made and create using new inventions. You can spend downtime to invent a common formula that you don't know. Well, that's pretty neat. This works just like craft activity. You spend half the price of the formula up front, attempt a crafting check, and on a success, either finish the formula by paying the difference or work for longer to decrease the price. The difference is that you spend the additional time in research, design, and development rather than creating an actual item. Once complete, you add the new formula you invented to your formula book. Again, I could see this being very useful if you were in a campaign that was far away from civilization and you had no one else to learn from and nowhere to buy these things. That could be very, very handy. I see a lot of these skills, especially the crafting skills, maybe having some value in like the Kingmaker game where you're on the frontier and you're trying to develop like a new civilization and all that jazz. All right, Rapid Fixture. Rapid Affixture is a level 7 crafting feat. You must be a master. You take only 1 minute to affix a talisman. If you're legendary in crafting, you can affix a talisman as a 3-action activity. I have no idea what a talisman is. Affix a talisman is an exploration item, or action, and it requires that you have a repair kit. You spend 10 minutes affixing a talisman to an item, placing the item on a stable surface, and using the repair kit with both hands. You can use... How is that an exploration item if you have a table for 10 minutes? You can also use this activity to remove a talisman. Attaching more than one talisman on an item deactivates all talismans. They must be removed and reaffixed before they can be used again. I will take your word for it. I don't know what talismans are. Alright. And then finally we got craft everything. Or sorry, craft anything. This is the level 15. The prerequisite is legendary crafting. You find ways to craft just about anything despite restrictions. As long as you have the appropriate crafting skill feat, such as magical crafting, and meet the item's level and proficiency requirements, you ignore just about any other requirements, such as being of a specific ancestry or providing specific spells. The only exceptions are requirements that add to the item's cost, including castings of spells that have themselves cost, and requirements to special items such as the Philosopher's Stone that have exclusive means of access and crafting. The GM decides whether or not you can ignore those requirements. So what the fuck is quick crafting? I want quick crafting. Show me. Quick repair, quick alchemy. Oh, you have to be an alchemist to do it. Oh. I bet the other stuff is covered by the... Let's see. Quick alchemy. You have to be an alchemist. Quick bomber, quick squeeze, quick recovery. Let's see. Quick snares. You can rig a snare at only moments. That's just for rangers. Okay. Okay. So that's where we start to get more into the class specializations of these things. Neat. Whew. All right, so that was an hour and 30 minutes to go over 3 skills: Arcana, Athletics, and Crafting. So these things are taking about 30 minutes apiece to go over. Admittedly, we're digging kind of deep. We're looking up stuff that we don't know. Let's see. Talismans are consumables that augment weapons and armor to gain combat advantages. Oh shit, that sounds awesome. Um, all right. So we have a long way to go. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 more skills to go over. We will find time in the days and weeks to come to continue going over and reviewing this stuff. But for now, I am going to go do something else. I'll be back tonight for Mythic Odyssey. Tomorrow we will have Odyssey Prime, our level 18 high level game. Tuesday, we're going to be playing some Pathfinder 2E Abomination Vaults. We have 1 spot left in the group. If you are interested in joining us and learning Pathfinder as you play, hit me up on Discord. We'd love to have 1 more person in the group. If you already know how to play and you don't mind hanging out with a bunch of noobs who know nothing about the system, you are also welcome to come join us and play. Hit me up on Discord for more information. All right, I hope everybody enjoys the rest of their Sunday, and I'll see you next time. And thank you, Captain Cuddles, for answering all those questions.